When Asher Vance confessed to me, his childhood friend Khloe Sterling stood right next to him, laughing in my face. The limited edition Jordans on his feet cost more than your tuition for a whole semester, Maya, she sneered. You didn't actually believe he was serious, did you? But I did. I fell for his joke. Back then, I was too naive to realize that Asher and I belonged to two completely different worlds. That was until Khloe lost her diamond bracelet. Asher, along with everyone else, directed his cold, mocking gaze at me. His voice dripped with sarcasm. If you were that desperate for cash, Maya, you could have just asked me. Why do this? My eyes welled with tears, and my hands shook violently inside my jacket sleeves. When I transferred schools, I blocked Asher on Snapchat, Instagram, and every other way he could reach me. I vanished without a sound. But I never expected that the arrogant, high and mighty Asher Vance would spend the next 7 years desperately searching for me. After gym class, Khloe, our school's resident it girl, lost her extremely expensive designer bracelet. Without my knowledge, she led a crowd to tear through my backpack. By the time I walked back into the classroom, my desk was an absolute mess. She was clinging to Asher's arm, whining. Asher, Maya is your girlfriend. Just tell her to give my bracelet back. Asher and Khloe grew up together. Everyone knew she was special to him. Even I had to admit that they shared a world I could never touch. Whenever they chatted about designer brands and luxury trips, I could only stand there, completely out of the loop. But this time, Asher didn't immediately back her up. He quietly cleaned up the mess on my desk, then finally looked up at her. What's the big deal about a bracelet? He said casually, though he didn't deny her accusation. I'll just buy you a new one. The classroom instantly erupted into whispers. The rumors started flying, each one uglier than the last. Wait, is it really the student council president? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. Everyone knows she's here on financial aid. And she was the only one who went back to the classroom during gym class. Man, if she pawned that bracelet, she wouldn't have to worry about rent for the next 6 months. Hey, I heard her dad got his leg busted years ago because he was caught stealing. I froze at the classroom door. It felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over my head. I went entirely numb. I never knew that the classmates who politely called me president to my face talked about me like this behind my back. Suddenly, someone called out, Maya? The room went dead silent. Dozens of eyes locked onto me. I hadn't done a single thing wrong, yet the overwhelming shame and humiliation almost suffocated me. Clutching my sleeves, I saw Asher turn to look at me. Maybe it was just my imagination, but for a split second, I thought I saw a flash of disgust in his eyes. No one cared about my explanation. In fact, the more I tried to defend myself, the weirder their looks became. Oh, forget it, Khloe said, her voice sweet and gentle. It's fine. I have plenty of other bracelets anyway. She generously told everyone it was probably just her own mistake and that they should drop it. But I refused to let this fake generosity drag my name through the dirt. As Khloe turned to leave, I grabbed her wrist. I wanted to take her to the administration office to check the security cameras. Khloe tilted her head, giving me a knowing, amused look. I knew Khloe would resist, but I never expected that the one who would physically stop me was Asher. He gently patted my head. That's enough, Maya. It's over. Whenever I was upset, Asher used to comfort me like this. But hearing those words now only made the lump in my throat grow tighter. I didn't take it. I choked out, looking up at him with tear-filled eyes. My dad came to drop off my lunch. I only ran back to the classroom to put the pizza box away. I didn't touch anything else. I had only gone back to put away the pizza. My dad had made it himself and brought it over. He told me it was my birthday and that I deserved a good meal. But Asher didn't seem to care about my explanation. He said it didn't matter. He said no matter what I did, he could make it go away. But why didn't it matter? I hadn't done anything. Did Asher seriously not understand how important a person's reputation was? I insisted on checking the cameras. Finally, Asher lost his patience. He let go of my hand and let out a laugh. It was a low, chilling sound. My heart sank. I slowly looked up and met his eyes. I saw the smirk on his face. I saw the same unconcealed prejudice in his eyes that everyone else had. Drop the act, Maya, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Did you really not take it? I remember you telling me a few days ago that you were really short on rent. And, by the way, the classroom security camera just happened to break yesterday. Are you telling me you didn't know that? My brain went completely blank. For some reason, Khloe's old words flashed in my mind. She had said, "You still don't get it, do you? You and Asher belong to different worlds." I hadn't understood it then, but at this moment I finally did. Asher Vance, the golden boy who grew up pampered by everyone, had classism engraved in his very bones. When push came to shove, he would always believe Khloe, the girl from his own social circle. He knew exactly how important a reputation was. He just never believed me from the start. The school bell rang loudly. It blended with Khloe's quiet giggle. In the chaos of students moving, someone knocked against my desk. I turned around just in time to see the pizza box slide off and hit the floor. The slice of pizza fell face down, sliding across the dusty floor and stopping right at my feet. It was covered in dirt and hair. I stared at it, completely speechless. The last string of my sanity snapped. Asher's voice was still buzzing in my ear. If you were short on cash, you could have just asked me, why do this? I couldn't take it anymore. I closed my eyes and shoved him away with all my might. When I looked up, the tears were streaming down my face. Yes, Asher, my family is poor. But I am not a thief. The autumn rain was freezing. I sat on the empty bleachers of the football field, holding the dirty pizza box, eating the salvageable pieces in silence. Actually, there wasn't much left. Most of it had been ruined. Asher walked over, holding an umbrella. His voice was tight with anger. What the hell are you doing out here in the rain? Drop that food, it's filthy. Maya, did you hear me? It's just a cheap pizza. Is it really worth all this? I'll buy you whatever you want. Asher rarely lost his temper with me. Normally, I would have teased him until he apologized. But right now, I just wanted to eat my lunch in peace. I gripped the box tightly, refusing to share his umbrella. Every time Asher took a step closer, I slid a step away. Are you seriously avoiding me? For a moment, his face went completely blank. After a second of silence, Asher took a step back. He held the umbrella over my head, letting the freezing rain soak his own shoulders as he stared at me. By the time I took my last bite, the downpour was heavy. Asher finally spoke. About the bracelet, I'll handle. Don't bother, I interrupted him. I'll handle it myself. I said I'd help you. Asher's tone was filled with frustration. How are you going to handle it? With your pathetic allowance. Hearing that, I wanted to laugh, but I couldn't. Believe whatever you want. I carefully closed the empty box, stood up, and walked away. Through the heavy rain, I thought I heard him call my name, but I didn't look back. After that day, Asher stopped coming to school. That was our very last conversation. Khloe dropped the accusation, but the rumors didn't stop. The principal adjusted his glasses and told me sternly that he would look into the matter. When I walked back into the classroom, some students instinctively clutched their designer bags closer to themselves. I froze at the door. My throat burned. I had studied so hard to get into this elite school, maintaining the top rank in our grade, only to be treated like a common thief. On parent-teacher night, I saw parents pointing at my dad's back near the school gates, snickering. Their whispers drifted over in the cold wind. Hey, is that the Miller girl's dad? I heard his leg got ruined because he got caught stealing. Like father, like daughter. No wonder she stole Khloe Sterling's bracelet. In the freezing wind, I saw my dad's shoulder stiffen. For the first time in my life, I couldn't look my dad in the eye. Whispers are a terrifying thing. Those silent, judging stares felt like 1,000 tiny cuts. It was the most excruciating day of my life. When we got home, my dad sat in the dark, smoking in silence for hours. I cried and hugged him. Dad, I didn't steal anything. I remembered everything you taught me. My dad didn't blame me, nor did he ask for details. He just looked at me after a long silence and asked softly, is it because of me that they blamed you? In the shadows, he gave me a weak, heartbreaking smile. I'm sorry, Maya, his voice was hoarse. I'm sorry I made you carry my shame. He finally told me the truth about his past. But the truth was I had always known. I was adopted. I had no money, and you were so sick back then, my dad recalled, his eyes filled with a pain that years couldn't erase. I tried to borrow from everyone, but we were still $1,000 short for your medical bills. I was desperate, but a crime is a crime. Once you cross that line, the shame sticks to your bones forever. You can never wash it off. My dad's voice faded into the night. Finally, he murmured, almost to himself, if a better man had found you back then, would you be living a better life now? Shortly after, my dad's chronic illness flared up badly. Terrified, I took a leave of absence from school. I didn't want to go anywhere. I just wanted to stay by his hospital bed. But when I came back from buying lunch one afternoon, I saw Khloe standing outside his ward. My heart leaped into my throat. Khloe had met my dad once before, with Asher, right in front of my dad's burger truck. I couldn't remember the details clearly, but I remembered her innocent, disgusted tone. How can anyone eat from a dirty truck like this? She had asked me. Just because you're used to eating trash doesn't mean you have to drag Asher down with you. I remembered Asher taking a bite, his handsome brow furrowing. He chewed twice, and then, as if he couldn't stand it, he spat it out into a napkin. My dad had stood there, in the freezing wind, looking at those rich kids. I had a massive fight with Asher that night. Pulling myself back to reality, I stared defensively at Khloe. What do you want? Khloe smiled warmly. Maya, if you needed money, you should have just said so. You shouldn't delay your dad's treatment. We're classmates after all. Asher, and I won't just stand by and do nothing. She slid a debit card toward me. What is this? I know a really great hospital in another state that can treat your dad. I can get him in. But that city is really far from here. It must be so exhausting to travel back and forth. The sterile corridor of the hospital was dead silent. I stared at Khloe for a long time. Suddenly, she smiled. Do you know why Asher hasn't been to school lately? He thinks you're embarrassing. He's too proud to be associated with a thief. You know his temper better than I do, right? That's why I'm the only one here today. Khloe's voice was soft, but her words felt like a million needles piercing my heart. The pain came in waves. My eyelashes fluttered. Inside the room, my dad's ragged coughing sounded like a ticking clock, counting down his life. At that moment, all my pride vanished. The smoke cleared, and only the life-saving card remained in my hand. I needed that money. I squeezed the card tightly in my palm. Thank you. I'll transfer schools immediately and move with him. I will pay you back every cent. I just need some time. Khloe chuckled mockingly. Who cares? Bye, Maya. I didn't tell anyone about the transfer. On a random Tuesday afternoon, we packed our lives and left the city. After moving to the new hospital, my dad's condition slowly stabilized. Life at the new high school was intense. I ran back and forth between the hospital and our cramped rental apartment. Fortunately, my grades didn't slip. My dad slowly recovered. During college, I juggled multiple part-time jobs and classes, barely having time to breathe. As for the money I owed Khloe, I sent monthly payments to the account number she had left me. It took me until 2 years after graduation to fully pay her back. 7 years passed in the blink of an eye. I never expected to run into Asher Vance again. The reunion caught me completely off guard. It happened at a high-end club where my college friend Lily Carson had dragged me to a party filled with trust fund kids. Almost everyone there was a wealthy heir or heiress. I hadn't wanted to go, but Lily had pleaded with me while fixing her makeup. Come on, Maya. If it weren't for my rich boyfriend, we'd never get into a place like this. Just think of it as a free luxury dinner. Plus, with your looks, you might actually catch a hot millionaire. Just come with me, please. Lily was my college roommate. I had lost touch with most people after graduation, but we remained close. She was dramatic, but she had a good heart. Unable to say no, I agreed. When we stepped into the private suite, the scent of luxury was overwhelming. It really wasn't a place for ordinary people like me, but a free meal was fine. Or so I thought, until the door opened. And the first person I saw in the crowd was Khloe Sterling. She had changed a lot in 7 years. The childish innocence was gone, replaced by an elegant, sexy charm. I didn't expect to see her here. And she clearly didn't expect to see me either. She was so shocked she knocked over her wine glass. The room was noisy, and Lily pushed me inside. Several guys started teasingly asking Lily to introduce me. Khloe stared at me, a slow smirk spreading across her face. Oh, we're old friends. I know her well. The teasing grew louder. An old friend? Well, don't keep us waiting, Khloe. Introduce her. Oh, I should definitely introduce her properly. Khloe leaned back in her chair, looking thoughtful. We stared at each other across the crowded room. Then, she smiled maliciously. So, Maya, should I start with the story of how you stole my diamond bracelet, or should I just start with your name? The room went dead silent. The smiles on everyone's faces froze. The looks they gave me instantly turned into suspicion and disgust. The whispers started again. It felt exactly like 7 years ago. Khloe's smirk remained perfectly in place. Lily instantly lost her temper. What the hell are you talking about? Don't make things up. Maya would never do that. Khloe looked at me. Why don't you ask her yourself? Her fingers tapped rhythmically on the table, a nervous tick. My eyes fell on the empty seat next to her. The seat in the very center. It was reserved for the most important guest of the night. Khloe was clearly trying to kick me out before that person arrived. I looked at her and smiled. You're nervous. The smile on Khloe's face vanished. Whether it was 7 years ago or now, my answer is the same. I, Maya Miller, have never stolen a thing in my life. And about that bracelet. I stared straight into her eyes. Did you really lose it, Khloe? The words hung in the suffocating silence of the VIP suite. Khloe's hand, resting on her wine glass, stiffened. the calculated composure on. Her face cracked, revealing a flash of raw panic before she forced a contemptuous laugh. Nervous? Me? Chloe's voice pitched slightly higher than usual. She glanced toward the heavy, dark oak doors at the entrance of the suite. Don't be ridiculous, Maya. I'm just astonished that you have the nerve to show up in a place like this. You think changing cities and laying low for 7 years erases what you are. It doesn't erase anything, I said softly, stepping closer to her table. The surrounding crowd, heiresses in silk, trust fund heirs holding glass tumblers of scotch, stared at us like audience members at a bloody theater performance. Because there was nothing to erase. You know exactly where that bracelet was, Khloe. Just like you knew my father was dying, and just like you knew exactly how to use a few $1,000s to chase me out of the city. Lily looked between us, her eyes wide with fury. Maya, what is she talking about? Is this the psycho girl from your old high school? It's fine, Lily, I murmured, keeping my gaze locked on Khloe. Some people spend 7 years growing up. Others just get better at wearing expensive clothes. You arrogant little, Khloe snapped, standing up so fast her stool scraped violently against the hardwood floor. Before she could finish her sentence, the double doors of the private suite swung open. The noise in the room died down instantly. The manager of the club hurried in. First, bowing slightly, holding the door with practiced deference. Then came the man behind him. He was taller than I remembered, tailored in a midnight blue charcoal suit that fit his broad shoulders impeccably. The boyish softness in his jawline was completely gone, replaced by hard, sharp angles carved by years of power and relentless authority. His dark hair was brushed back cleanly, and his deep-set eyes held a cool, indifferent darkness that commanded the entire room without a single word. Asher Vance. The room stirred with subdued excitement. Mr. Vance, we reserved the master table for you, the club owner whispered, nervously gesturing toward the center couch, the very seat right next to Khloe. Chloe's expression shifted instantly. The venom on her face melted away into an expression of delicate, breathless warmth. She took a step toward him, her voice dripping with affection. Asher, you finally made it. We were just talking about. Asher didn't look at her. He didn't look at the club owner or the alcohol or the eager faces waiting to curry favor with the head of the Vance Corporation. His gaze swept across the room and froze dead on me. The air in the room seemed to get sucked out in an instant. Asher stopped dead in his tracks. His hand, resting near his suit jacket button, twitched. His dark eyes dilated, tracking over my face, my hair, the simple, black dress I wore, as if he were staring at a phantom rising from a grave. For 7 years, I had wondered what it would feel like to see him again. I thought I would panic, or cry, or feel the agonizing sting of humiliation that had ruined my teenage years. But standing there under the warm chandelier light, I felt nothing but a quiet, hollow stillness. Maya? The name tore from his throat. It wasn't the arrogant, sarcastic tone of the boy who had laughed at my broken pizza box on the gym floor. It was raspy, strained, carrying a raw, desperate weight that made the surrounding guests murmur in confusion. Khloe rushed forward, attempting to slip her arm through his. Asher, don't mind her. It's just Maya Miller. Remember? The girl who stole my. Get your hands off me, Asher growled without turning his head. Khloe froze, her face draining of color. Asher, what? Asher didn't look at Khloe. He took a slow, heavy step toward me. His knuckles were white, clenched into tight fists at his sides. The composure he had carried into the room shattered into 1,000 jagged pieces. Maya, it's really you, he whispered, his voice trembling. He reached out a hand toward me, his fingers shaking slightly in midair. Where did you go? I searched everywhere. I went to every school, every hospital, every. Don't touch me, Mr. Vance, I said evenly, stepping back to avoid his hand. The title, Mr. Vance, hit him like a physical blow. Asher flinched, his hand dropping back to his side. Let's go, Lily, I said calmly, turning on my heel toward the exit. The food here isn't worth the atmosphere. Maya, wait, Asher called out, his voice laced with pure panic. He lunged forward, ignoring the shock of everyone in the room, and bolted past Khloe to follow me into the dimly lit corridor. The marble hallway outside the VIP room was quiet, echoing only with the sound of my heels. Lily hurried behind me, clutching her purse. Maya, who is that? Lily gasped, breathless. That's Asher Vance, the CEO of Vance Group. He looks like he's about to have a heart attack. He's nobody, I replied coldly, quickening my pace. Maya. A strong, warm hand clamped around my wrist. The touch was careful, desperate, yet terrifyingly soft, as if he were afraid that if he pulled too hard, I would turn into dust and disappear again. I stopped and whipped my head around. Asher was standing right behind me, breathing heavily. His sleek, disciplined facade was completely shattered. Under the corridor lights, I could see the faint shadows beneath his eyes, the subtle desperation etched into the corners of his mouth. Let go, I said, my voice ice cold. I won't. Asher choked out, his grip tightening just a fraction before he relaxed it, terrified of hurting me. If I let go, you'll vanish again. You blocked me. You changed your number. You erased your entire life from that city. Maya, do you have any idea what the last 7 years have been like? I let out a harsh, bitter laugh. What it's been like for you? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Vance. Did your limited edition sneakers get dirty? Did you have to endure another painful meal from a burger truck? Asher's eyes burned with an agonizing mixture of grief and shame. I was a fool. I was an arrogant, blind idiot back then, Maya. But I never wanted you to leave. You called my family poor, I said, laying out the facts like cold stones. Between us. You laughed when my dad brought me food on my birthday. You stood by while Khloe threw her accusations at me, and when I tried to defend my dignity, you told me to drop the act and asked if I was short on rent. Every word I spoke seemed to slice through him. Asher's breath hitched, his face turning ghostly pale. I didn't believe she was right, Asher stammered, his eyes pleading. I was mad at you. I was mad because you kept pushing me away, because you wouldn't let me help you. I said those terrible things because I wanted to hurt your pride so you would finally rely on me. It was stupid, it was cruel, but I went to check the security feeds myself the very next day. I stared at him, motionless. And the cameras weren't broken, Asher confessed, his voice dropping into a raspy whisper. Khloe bribed the security guard to turn off the corridor feed for 10 minutes. I found out 3 days after you stopped coming to school. I went to your house to tell you, to beg for your forgiveness, but the house was empty. I stood in silence. 3 days. He found out 3 days too late. And what about Khloe? I asked softly. If you knew the truth 3 days later, why was she still standing by your side tonight? Asher's chest heaved. She wasn't. I cut off her family's contracts years ago. The only reason she was in that room tonight was because my company was evaluating a potential merger with her family's remaining assets, a trap I set to liquidate her father's firm completely. I wanted her to suffer. Maya, I spent 7 years tearing down everything she cared about because she drove you away. You didn't drive me away because of a bracelet, Asher. I said, my voice dangerously calm. I left because of a debit card. Asher froze. What? Ask your precious childhood friend, I said, yanking my wrist free from his grasp. Ask Khloe about the money she generously lent me to pay for my father's emergency lung surgery, on the sole condition that I take my father, transfer to another state, and never speak to you again. Asher stared at me, his eyes widening in complete, utter horror. She gave you money to leave? I spent the last 7 years paying back every single cent to her personal account, I said, looking him dead in the eye. Including interest. I finished paying her back 2 years ago. I owe her nothing. I owe you nothing. I turned my back on him. Maya, please. Asher cried out, taking a step forward, his voice breaking completely. Please, give me a chance to make it right. Just one chance. We belong to 2 different worlds, Asher, I said, echoing the words that had haunted my youth. You told me that 7 years ago. Don't worry. I finally learned my lesson. Without looking back, I took Lily's arm and walked out into the cold night air. When Asher returned to the VIP suite, the atmosphere in the room froze solid. He didn't look like a man who had just reconnected with an old classmate. He looked like a storm incarnate, bathed in a murderous, terrifying aura. Khloe was sitting on the leather sofa, holding a fresh glass of champagne, pretending to look unbothered, though her hands were shaking violently. Asher. Khloe offered a weak, timid smile as he walked in. Is she gone? You really shouldn't let someone like her ruin your night. She's just an old memory. Bang. Asher smashed his fist down onto the glass coffee table in front of her. The thick tempered glass cracked under the force, shatterlines spiderwebbing across the surface. Alcohol glasses overturned, spilling reddish wine all over. Khloe's white designer dress. Screams echoed across the room as the other guests stumbled backward in terror. Asher. Khloe shrieked, cowering against the sofa cushions. Where is it? Asher's voice was unnervingly low, trembling with a fury so deep it made the air feel heavy. What are you talking about? Asher leaned down, his eyes bloodshot, staring into her face like a predator, about to snap her neck. The diamond bracelet. The one you claimed Maya stole. 7 years ago. Khloe's breath hitched. I told you back then. She took it, or she lost it. I don't. The security guard, Miller, confessed 6 years ago. Asher hissed his voice, slicing through the room like a razor blade. He admitted you paid him $5,000 to wipe the entry logs. I knew you lied about the theft. But I never knew about the debit card, Khloe. Khloe's eyes widened in sheer terror. The color drained from her lips. Completely. She lied to you. She's making things up to get back at me. Asher pulled out his phone, dialed a number, and put it on speakerphone. Secretary Vance. A crisp male voice sounded over the speaker. Transfer logs, Asher commanded coldly. Check the personal offshore account. Registered under Khloe Sterling's name for the past 7 years. Look for recurring monthly wire transfers from a Maya Miller. There was a silence on the line, followed by the rapid clacking of a keyboard. Less than 30 seconds later, the secretary answered. Found it, sir. Starting 7 years ago, a total of 48 monthly transfers were made from an account registered under Maya Miller to Miss Sterling's personal account. The final payment was made 24 months ago, labeled Final Settlement plus 5% interest. Total amount, $125,000. The entire room fell into a dead silence. The rich heirs and heiresses standing around looked at Khloe with expressions of absolute disgust and horror. Extorting a poor girl, framing her for theft, and taking monthly payments from her while she worked to save her sick father was lower than trash. You took her money, Asher whispered, his hand shaking as he put the phone away. She was working 3 jobs, skipping meals, starving herself to pay for her father's medical bills, and you took her money every single month. Asher, listen to me. Khloe sobbed, reaching out to grab his sleeve. I did it. For you. She was a nobody. She was dirt. She didn't deserve to sit in the same classroom as us, let alone be near you. I saved you from embarrassing yourself. Asher looked down at her hand on his sleeve as if it were a poisonous viper. You didn't save me, Asher said quietly, his voice hollow and terrifying. You destroyed the only genuine thing I ever had in my life. He raised his eyes and looked at the crowd. Starting tomorrow morning, Asher announced, his voice echoing clearly. Throughout the room, Vance Group will terminate all existing contracts with Sterling Enterprises. Furthermore, we will be calling in all outstanding loans. Immediately. Khloe gasped, falling to her knees on the stained floor. No. Asher, please. That will ruin my family. My dad will go to prison. And, Asher continued, his eyes cold as ice, my legal team will be filing formal charges against Khloe Sterling for extortion, grand larceny fraud, and character defamation. Asher, please. I love you. I've always loved you. Khloe screamed, sobbing hysterically as she tried to hug his knees. Asher stepped back, letting her fall face first onto the spilled wine and shattered glass. Get out of my sight, he said quietly, before I ruin you worse. Life didn't stop because Asher Vance had reappeared. The morning after the party, I woke up at 6 in the morning just like I did every day. I made breakfast for my father, scrambled eggs, steamed buns, and hot soy milk, before putting on my simple cream-colored blazer and heading to work. Over the past 7 years, I hadn't just survived. I had rebuilt my life piece by piece. After graduating at the top of my class in interior architecture, I had joined a boutique firm that specialized in restoring historic buildings. My father's health had stabilized after his surgery, and he now ran a quiet, small bakery near our modest apartment complex. We weren't wealthy, but we were clean, honest, and peaceful. Or at least, we were until 8 o'clock that morning. When I stepped out of our apartment building, a sleek, black Maybach was parked right at the curb. Standing beside it was Asher. He was no longer wearing his high society suit. Instead, he wore a simple black coat and gray sweater, his hair slightly disheveled, as if he hadn't slept a single minute all night. When he saw me walk out, he immediately stood straight, taking a step toward me, before hesitating and stopping a few feet away. Maya, he said softly. I paused, clutching my briefcase tighter. Mr. Vance, I believe I made myself clear last night. I brought you something, he said, ignoring my harsh tone. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a thick leather binder, handing it toward me with both hands. I didn't take it. What is this? It's the complete financial restitution, Asher said, his voice pleading. Khloe's personal accounts have been frozen. The $125,000 you sent her over the last 7 years has been recovered, along with an additional $2 million in damages from the Sterling estate. It's already in an escrow account under your name. I stared at the binder, then looked up into his tired, aching eyes. Take it back, I said flatly. Asher blinked, stunned. Maya, it's your money. She stole it from you. I paid that money to buy my father's life and my own freedom, I said calmly, stepping past him toward the bus stop. I earned every dollar with my own two hands. I don't want Khloe's money, and I certainly don't want yours. Maya, please. Asher walked beside me, his long strides matching my pace. I'm not trying to buy your forgiveness. I know money can't fix what I did. I want to make things right. Tell me what to do. Tell me what you want and I'll do it. I stopped and turned to look at him. You want to know what I want? I asked. He nodded eagerly, like a drowning man grasping for a lifeline. I want the 7 years back, I said softly. I want the nights my father spent crying in the dark because he thought his past ruined my life. I want the birthday pizza that was ruined on the dirty floor. I want the dignity I lost when 40 people stared at me like I was trash. Asher's mouth opened, but no words came out. Tears welled in his eyes, gleaming under the cold morning sun. You can't give me any of those things, Asher, I said quietly. So please go back to your world. Leave me in mine. I turned and stepped onto the approaching city bus. As the bus doors closed, I looked through the dusty window. Asher remained, standing on the curb in the freezing autumn breeze, staring at the bus with a look of absolute, soul-crushing despair. 2 weeks passed. Asher didn't show up at my apartment again, nor did he block my path at work. I thought he had finally accepted reality and given up. Until one Friday afternoon when my boss called me into the executive office. Maya, take a look at this, my boss said, sliding a thick legal document across the desk with an expression of pure awe. The Municipal Historical Society just approved our restoration project for the old city library. But that's not the crazy part. I picked up the document. What is? The funding, my boss breathed. The entire $20 million budget was anonymously donated under one condition, that you be appointed as the lead principal architect. And look at the addendum. I flipped to the back page. Attached to the contract was a certified court document from the Provincial High Court, stamped with an official red seal. I read the heading, and my heart stopped beating. Case reopening and full exoneration regarding the 2012 incident of Mr. George Miller. My hands began to shake violent. I read the text beneath it. It detailed an investigation conducted over the past 2 weeks by a top-tier legal team. They had located the retired warehouse owner from 14 years ago, the man who had accused my father of stealing and had broken his leg during a confrontation. The legal document contained a signed, sworn confession from the warehouse owner. He admitted that my father had never stolen anything. My father had been framed by his own supervisor to cover up an internal inventory shortage. The warehouse owner had paid my father a small sum to keep quiet, threatening to send him to prison if he spoke up, leaving my father crippled and branded as a thief for over a decade. The record was officially expunged. A public apology was ordered to be printed in the state newspaper, along with a massive financial settlement for wrongful injury. At the very bottom of the document, written in dark, elegant penmanship, was a tiny handwritten note. I couldn't give you back the 7 years, Maya, but I can give your father back his name. Tears burst from my eyes, dropping onto the crisp, white paper. I didn't say a word to my boss. I grabbed my bag, sprinted out of the office building, and hailed a taxi straight to my father's bakery. When I pushed open the bakery door, the bell chimed brightly. My father was standing behind the glass counter, holding a folded copy of the evening newspaper. His hands were trembling so badly he could barely hold the paper. His eyes were red, overflowing with silent, hot tears as he stared at the front page apology printed in bold black ink. Sitting at one of the small wooden tables in the corner was Asher. He was wearing a simple, worn apron over his dress shirt, flour dusting his sleeves. He had spent the afternoon sweeping the floor and helping my father pack bread boxes. When I walked in, Asher looked up nervously, standing up from the small chair, like a child caught doing something wrong. Maya. My dad choked out, his voice hoarse as he looked at me. Look at what this young man brought us. I walked over to my dad, threw my arms around his neck, and wept. My dad held me tightly, crying into my shoulder. A man who had carried 15 years of undeserved shame finally setting down his heavy burden. After a long time, my dad patted my back gently. I'll go check the oven. In the back, he murmured softly, giving Asher a gentle, forgiving look before limping into the kitchen. The small bakery fell quiet, filled only with the sweet smell of baking bread. I turned around to face Asher. He stood there, nervously rubbing his flour-stained hands together. He looked nothing like the powerful billionaire CEO who ran the city. He just looked like the boy who used to sit on my porch, watching me eat homemade lunch. Why did you do this? I asked, wiping the tears from my cheeks. Because it was the truth, Asher said softly, taking a cautious step closer. Your father is an honorable man, Maya. He raised the most resilient, incredible woman I have ever known. He deserved justice. You both did. I looked at him, my heart aching with a complex, overwhelming flood of emotions. Asher. You don't have to forgive me, Asher interrupted quickly, his voice urgent and tender. You don't have to let me back into your life, and you don't have to give me a second chance. I don't expect you to forget the pain I caused you. He took a deep breath, looking straight into my eyes with an unwavering intensity. I spent 7 years living in an empty world, Maya. Searching for you was the only thing that kept me alive. Now that I've found you, I don't need you to come back to my world. Asher slowly knelt down on one knee on the simple wooden floor of our small bakery. He didn't offer a diamond ring, or a key to a mansion, or a promise of luxury. He simply held out his open palm toward me, stripped of all his pride, his status, and his power. If you'll let me, Asher whispered, his voice thick with raw emotion. I want to stay in yours. I'll start from the beginning. I'll earn every step. Just please don't run away again. I looked down at his flour-dusted clothes, at the tears shimmering in his eyes, and at the long, painful road we had both walked to reach this tiny room. The rain from 7 years ago seemed to finally stop falling inside my heart. I didn't pull my hand back. Slowly, gently, I reached down and placed my fingers into his open palm. The pizza is cold, Asher, I murmured, a tiny, watery smile breaking through my tears. But if you're willing to help clean up the mess, you can stay for dinner. Asher's breath caught. A brilliant, tearful smile broke across his face. The first genuine smile he had worn in 7 years, as he tightened his fingers gently around mine. I'll clean up every mess, he promised softly, kissing the back of my hand. For the rest of my life.